Well, that Vanity Fair article has given us a pretty big update on the Blade movie and what's going on behind the scenes. It's a jaw-dropping report which highlights one of the big problems going on in Hollywood and specifically at Marvel right now. So let's dive into the report. What's going on? And the big name writer they have to fix it. Well, I have to say, one of Marvel's more anticipated projects is the upcoming Blade reboot. The original movies back in the 90s have to be given a ton of credit for launching the modern superhero era, and Blade started that off when Wesley Snipes picked up the sword back in the early 1990s. Now, a couple of years ago at Comic-Con, we found out Mahershala Ali was going to take up the role of the Daywalker, and everybody was beyond excited that an actor of this talent level wanted the role. Now, since then, it's been nothing but ups and downs. And although the movie is still in production, the original director and the writing team has been completely clipped. Now, recently we got a report from Vanity Fair, and boy did they peel the cover back on Marvel Studios, and one of the things they talked about was Blade. One of the things in the article that they did confirm is that Michael Green is set to write a new script for the upcoming movie, and this should have fans pretty happy. Green has a pretty big resume, but one of the feathers in his cap is a fan favorite movie, and I'm talking about Logan. That's right, Marvel Studios has hired the writer of Logan to rewrite a fresh script for the upcoming Blade movie. Now, when they say fresh script, it means the old script is basically being thrown out. And honestly, as they dove into more points on that, this sounded like an absolute disaster. Now, in Vanity Fair's report, the outlet actually noted that a previous version of the Blade script had, and I quote, one point morphed into a narrative led by a woman and filled with life lessons, where Blade was relegated to the fourth lead. Now, we had been hearing for a while that this was going to be a period piece, but it sounds to me what they were doing with this script really would have been a disaster. If people are going to see a Blade movie, they want to see Blade. I realize Hollywood likes to stretch out and expand the audience, but Blade already has an audience in place. And when you bring Blade back, that's what they want to see. I think this period piece was going to be told from a story perspective set in the modern times, where you had the narrator, probably this character, telling the story of Blade, with Blade occasionally appearing in the story. Now, this isn't what anybody wants. People want something akin to the original Blade series. And the fact that behind the scenes the team was even considering this is probably fairly systemic of one of the major problems. Marvel keeps diverting too far from the source material, and that's what made Marvel great in the beginning. The source material defines those characters, and that's the reason we fall in love with those characters. So hopefully when Michael Green hands in his first draft of the upcoming script, well, he seemed to understand how Logan and Wolverine worked, so I'm pretty sure he understands Blade, and that at least is some good news. Now, there was some interesting news that people are reacting in a mixed way though, and that would be the budget. Now, the report says Marvel really wants to get Blade right, but it doesn't sound like they're going to attach a massive budget. According to the report, Marvel is planning on spending $100 million on Blade. Now, when you have movies like Guardians of the Galaxy that did $285 and many other projects north of $200 million, that might catch a lot of people off guard. But you gotta keep a couple things in mind. First and foremost, a really good vampire movie like Blade doesn't really require a lot of CGI, and honestly, I would love for this film to be very akin to the original series, which was mostly practical effects. The first film had a budget of $45 million, with the second film having $54 and the third having $65. So as you can see, they've already made really good Blade movies with a much smaller budget, although obviously those numbers have to be adjusted for inflation. Blade is really important to the horror leg of the future of the Marvel Universe, and I think it's important they don't play around here. I'm not really sure what caused this script to be morphed into a narrative led by another character filled with life lessons, but that sounds like a tragic disaster. They need to give fans a vampire movie that's full of action, a little bit of gore, and that trademark snark that Wesley Snipes brought to life in the first series absolutely has to be there in the reboot. Hopefully they can get this ship righted as soon as possible. I'm really scared Mahershala Ali is going to bail on the project, and I think that could spell the end. Marvel has plans for these horror characters moving down the road, and I think Blade might be the most important leg in that process.